Welcome to The Explainer. So how does a tiny side project turn into a billion-dollar success story? Well, today we're going to decode the kind of thinking that makes that happen. We're breaking down 6 powerful, maybe even a little rebellious mindsets that pretty much fly in the face of everything they teach you in business school.
Okay, so let's kick things off with a great story. Meet Linda Weinman. Picture it. It's 1995. She's a graphic design teacher, and she just wants a little corner of the internet to mess around with new tools. You know, things like Photoshop and Illustrator. So she starts this website, lynda.com. And really, it was just a sandbox for her, a place to play and show off what her students were doing.
Well, that simple sandbox, it blew up. It turned into this absolute powerhouse for online learning. By 2002, all her teaching was online. And then, get this, in 2015, LinkedIn comes along and buys it for $1.5 billion. Yeah, with a B. So Linda, she's pretty much the perfect poster child for what we're talking about today.
So, what we're really talking about here is a counter-conventional mindset. It's this set of attitudes and habits that, well, they just run completely counter to the best practices you hear about. It's what lets an entrepreneur look at a roadblock and see an opportunity. It's about turning those unexpected challenges into total breakthroughs. All right, let's get into it.
All right, mindset number 1. This is all about what you do when a customer comes to you and asks for something you have absolutely no idea how to do. The conventional answer is no, but the entrepreneurial answer, it's always yes.
You know, big companies are taught to stick to their knitting, right? To focus on their core competencies and say no to everything else. But entrepreneurs, they build empires by doing the exact opposite. Take a guy from Brazil named Arnold Correa. He basically built his business by swerving out of his lane.
So Arnold's running an event management company. One day, a huge client asks him if he can broadcast a training session to 260 stores all across Brazil. Now, he knows nothing about satellite technology. Zero. But what does he do? He says yes. He just figures it out. And that one yes completely transformed his company, Atmo Digital. And he didn't just do it once. He reinvented his business like this 4 different times.
Okay, so that leads us right into our second mindset. This one's a biggie. It's about shifting your entire focus. Instead of being obsessed with your product, you become obsessed with your customer's problem. It's a total fundamental change in how you see things.
Think about it. Big companies love to just tweak their products, right? They change the speckles in the laundry detergent from blue to green and call it new and improved. It's all about the product. But entrepreneurs, they're all about the problem. They find something that's genuinely painful for people and they fix it. A great example is Jonathan Thorne, who saw a really dangerous problem happening inside operating room.
So he noticed that surgical forceps, they stick to human tissue. Now, for a plastic surgeon, that's annoying, right? But for a neurosurgeon, it's absolutely critical. I mean, you definitely want to keep all the brain cells you can. So he solved it. He developed this new silver-nickel alloy, built a super successful company around it, and ended up selling it to Stryker, all from focusing on the problem.
Okay, this next one is going to feel totally backwards, but trust me, it's incredibly powerful. Instead of trying to go big and target this huge, massive market, you need to think small, like really, really small.
See, big corporations, they have to move the needle, so they're always hunting for these giant markets. But entrepreneurs often do the opposite. They target a super narrow market first. Just think about Nike. When they started, they focused on a group of people that most big companies would have just totally ignored.
Yeah, their initial target market was elite distance runners. That's it. Founders Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman got obsessed with the problems of just a handful of these top athletes. Back then, you have to remember, running shoes were basically just sprinter shoes. They were great for a short dash on a smooth track, but terrible for long-distance runners pounding away on country roads.
So they built a better shoe just for them. A shoe with better lateral stability, a wider footbed, more cushioning to help with shin splints, all the stuff these elite runners needed. And by creating that perfect shoe for that tiny, tiny niche, they built the expertise and the reputation to eventually just take over. They went on to dominate basically every athletic shoe category, signing guys like, Michael Jordan.
All right, let's talk about the big one, cash. It's the lifeblood of any new business, right? But here's the counter-conventional trick. It's not about raising a bunch of money from investors. No. It's about getting cash from your customers before you even have a product to sell them.
So how on earth do you fund a car company before you've even built a single car? I mean, that was the exact problem facing Elon Musk and the team at Tesla. They had this grand plan, right? Start with a high-end sports car, use that money to build a mid-range car, and then finally a mass market car.
The only problem? They had zero cash to get started. The solution, though, was pure entrepreneurial genius.
What did they do? They went out and pre-sold the car. They sold the first 100 Tesla Roadsters to people before they were even built. We're talking $100,000 each, cash up front. Just like that, they had $10 million in the bank to actually start building the things.
And they didn't just do it once. They did the exact same thing again, but on a way bigger scale for the Model 3. Get this. They got almost 500,000 people to put down a $1,000 deposit. That's $500 million in customer cash that they could use to fund the whole operation. Incredible.
Okay, so our last two mindsets are kind of like a 1-2 punch. They're both all about being resourceful. First, we'll talk about mindset 5, which is to borrow, and then we'll hit mindset 6, just go. It's about using other people's stuff and not waiting around for permission.
You see, a big company would do a whole ROI analysis before buying all the assets they need. An entrepreneur, they just figure out how to beg, borrow, but, please don't steal, whatever they need. They find a creative way to use assets they don't actually own. A perfect example of this is a company in the UK called GoApe.
Okay, so the founders of GoApe, they wanted to build this awesome treetop adventure business. One small problem. They didn't own any forests. So what they do? They went to the UK Forestry Commission, who happened to want more visitors, and they struck a deal. GoApe got to use their trees, their parking lots, their bathrooms, everything. They built over 30 sites without spending a dime on land.
And that perfectly sets up the second half of this combo, the final mindset, which is just get on with it. When rules are a little ambiguous, you're often better off just acting instead of waiting for approval. I mean, in a big company, the first thing you do is go talk to the lawyers and regulators, right? And it's so easy for them to say no and almost impossible to get a yes. Entrepreneurs know that if they wait for a green light, they might be waiting forever.
Seriously, think about it. Do you think Uber would even exist today if its founders had gone and asked regulators for permission to start a taxi company with no taxis? No way. The answer is a hard no. They would have been shut down immediately to protect the taxi industry. But instead, they just did it. They acted first in that gray area, and they completely changed the world. So the big question for you is, how can you start using these mindsets?
So let's wrap this up by turning the spotlight on you for a second. Of these 6 mindsets we've talked about, saying yes, finding the problem, thinking narrow, getting cash first, borrowing assets, and just going for it, which of those do you already have? Which ones feel kind of natural to you?
And maybe even more important, which one could you start using right now to get past a roadblock you're facing? Which of these new ways of thinking could be the one that helps you break through a challenge? You never know. It might just be the thing that helps you get unstuck and, just maybe, change the world.